when news anchors read from their audio cues, chances are that the text stems from one of these organizations. That is the reason that worldwide media shows synchronicity in their reporting.
One-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 And look at the European Journalism Centre itself. Again, the Gates Foundation and the Open Society Foundation. They are also heavily sponsored by Facebook, Google, the Ministry of Education and Science and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Who sponsors the organization and press agencies that produce our news? With Project Syndicate, we see the BMGF, the Open Society Foundation and the European Journalism Centre. The organizations that bring the news get paid by non-profit organizations, of the same elite that also owns the entire media. But also a part of taxpayers' money is used to pay them. In Belgium there are protests regularly since Media House and the Persgroep receive millions of euros from the government, while many are abroad. As a closing note, we take our Dutch Public Broadcasting Service, NPO. Criticism that it is a mouthpiece of the government, that in itself could be a mouthpiece of the big corporation, is not unfounded. The chairman of the supervisory board of the NPO is Tjibbe Joustra. He wrote the electoral platform for the VVD, a right-wing liberal party. Former VVD leader Ed Nijpels was chairman of Avrotros. VVD legislator Erik van den Burg is chairman of the NTR. Former chairman of the VVD Bas Eenhoorn is now chairman of WNL. Former PvdA State Secretary Martijn van Dam controls the distribution of benefits to the NPO and sits in the board of the NPO. Former chairman of the PvdA is now in the supervisory board of the VARA. CDA politician Paul Roep is chairman of the supervisory board of KRO and CRV. The partner of D66 minister Ollegren, Irene van Brekel, is editor-in-chief of the news comedy Lubach. Former news anchor Pia Dijkstra is now a member of parliament for D66. Well, this was a lot to chew on, and I tried to make it as short as I could. I only used examples that I thought were necessary to create a clear overview. This helps to better understand our current situation, that can shed new light on past events. There will be enough time to dive into the past, but now let's talk about today. But my goal is to inform you about the danger we are in now. The elite governs every aspect of our lives, also the information we get, and they depend on a cooperation to connect all industries in the world to serve their interests. This is done through the World Economic Forum, among others, a very important organization. Every year in Davos, the CEOs of big corporations meet national leaders, politicians and other influential parties like UNICEF and Greenpeace. In the supervisory board of the WEF is former President Al Gore, our own Minister Kaag, Fijke Sijbsma, chairman of the Royal Dutch State Mines, and the commissioner of DNB, the Dutch bank. Christine Lagarde, chairwoman of the European Central Bank. Also politician Bert Grapperhaus' son works for the WEF. Wikipedia says that the annual fee for members is €X. But over half of her budget comes from partners who pay the cost for politicians who otherwise could not afford membership. Wikipedia also mentions this. According to critics, the WEF is for rich businesses to do business with other businesses or with politicians. For most members, the WEF would support personal gain instead of being a means to solve the world's problems. Why would there be many world problems if the industry leaders, bankers and politicians from 1971 onwards have gathered every year to solve the world's problems? Isn't it illogical that after 50 years of meetings between environmentalists and the CEOs of the most polluting companies, nature is gradually doing worse, not better? That those critics are right is clear when we look at the main partners that together make up more than half of the budget of the WEF. Because these are BlackRock, the Open Society Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and many big companies from which Vanguard and BlackRock own the stocks. Chairman and founder of the WEF is Klaus Schwab, a Swiss professor and businessman. In his book The Great Reset, he writes about the plans of his organization. The coronavirus is, according to him, a great opportunity to reset our societies. He calls it Building Back Better. The slogan is now on the lips of all globalist politicians in the world.
Historical moment, a crucial moment to rebuild the future, to reset our policies.
We also want to work together on building back better.
I call it Build Back Better.
But the COVID-19 pandemic can also be a moment for resolving long-standing conflicts and addressing structural weaknesses.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity.
4 sets of priorities can guide the response to build back better.
To build back a better world.
But also to build back better.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
And achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
Our old society must switch to a new one, says Schwab. The people own nothing but work for the state to have their primary needs met. The WEF says it's necessary, for the consumption society the elite forced upon us is not sustainable anymore. Schwab says in his book that we will never return to the old normal. And the WEF published a video recently to make clear that by 2030 we will own nothing, but we will be happy. You probably heard of the New World Order. The media wants us to believe that this is a conspiracy theory, yet it has been talked about by leaders for decades. George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton and Nelson Mandela but also world-famous philanthropists like Cecil Rhodes, David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and even George Soros.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it was a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
The UN presented in 2015 her controversial Agenda 2030. It is almost identical to the Great Reset of Klaus Schwab. The UN wants to make sure, as does Schwab, that in 2030 poverty, hunger, pollution and disease no longer plague the earth. Sounds nice, but wait till you read the small print. The plan is that Agenda 2030 will be paid by us, the citizens. Just like they ask of us now to give away our rights for public health, they will ask us to give away our wealth to battle poverty. These are no conspiracy theories. It is on their official website. It comes down to this. The UN wants taxes from Western countries to be split by the mega corporations of the elite to create a brand new society. A new infrastructure because fossil fuels are gone in 2030. For this project, the UN says we need a world government, namely the UN itself. The UN agrees with Schwab that a pandemic is a golden chance to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2030.